a whisper for a start, a little secret. The man who built a house of glass saw every stone they threw. So he built a house of empty space, and they never saw him pass. He wasn't there to wound, you see. He wasn't there at all. And the hollow shape he left behind made mountains of them fall. Funny, isn't it? We spend our youth, our vitality, our sanity, behaving like beggars at a banquet. We plead, we perform, we dance like frantic marionettes for a scrap of attention, a nod of approval, a moment of her gaze. We are taught to fill space, be louder, be bigger, be more interesting. We are told to chase, to pursue, to demonstrate value through relentless effort. It's a frantic, sweaty, pathetic display, like a moth immolating itself on a porch light, believing the brightness is love. But the old masters, the ones who sat in silence long enough to hear the universe breathing, they knew the truth. Lao Tzu wasn't writing a self-help book. He was writing a user manual for reality. And the most forbidden chapter, the one they don't quote on yoga mats, is about power. Not the power of the fist, but the power of the void, the utility of the non-existent. What makes a cup useful? Its emptiness. What makes a room habitable? The space between its walls. What makes a woman obsessed? It is not the space you fill in her life. It is the space you create. A perfectly carved, maddeningly silent, horribly eloquent void where you used to be. This isn't about playing games. Games are for children, and the stakes here are far too grotesque for childish things. This is about spiritual physics. When you chase a woman, you are a force acting upon her. You push, you supplicate, you orbit her. You become a known quantity, a predictable satellite in her sky. She can chart your course, predict your phases. She holds the map. And anything that can be mapped, my friend, can eventually be ignored. But when you stop, when you truly, genuinely, existentially stop, something terrifying happens. You cease to be a force. You become a phenomenon. You become a center of gravity in your own right. By removing your energy, your need, your relentless presence, you create a vacuum. And nature, especially human nature, abhors a vacuum. Her mind, so accustomed to your pushing, suddenly finds nothing to resist. The silence where your good morning texts used to be is louder than any symphony. The evenings, empty of your invitations, feel cavernous. You haven't ghosted her, no, that is the clumsy act of a coward. Instead, you have, sublimated. You have turned from a solid into a gas. You are in the air she breathes, but you are nowhere to be found. Think of the old folk tale, the one they whisper in villages where the fog hangs too low. The story of the silent monk. He sought a princess's heart. Her other suitors brought jewels, poems, armies. They filled her courtyard with noise and color. The monk did nothing. He simply sat under a dying ginkgo tree outside the palace walls. He did not look at her window. He did not send messages. He ate his simple rice. He slept on the hard earth. He watched the seasons turn. Day after day, week after week, he was merely there. And then one day, he was gone. The princess, who had barely noticed his presence, was consumed by his absence. The silence from the courtyard was a scream. The empty space under the ginkgo tree became the focal point of her entire kingdom. Whose jewels were these? Whose poems? They were meaningless clutter. The only thing of value was the question, where did he go? Why did he leave? Was I not worthy of his silence? She wasn't in love with the monk. She was in love with the hole he had burned into her reality. She was obsessed with a ghost. This is the forbidden game. It's not about ignoring her to get a reaction. That's a tactic, and it reeks of desperation. It is about finding a universe within yourself, so vast and so compelling that you forget to chase hers. It's the genuine, unfeigned cultivation of of your own solitude. When a man stops chasing women, it is not because he has given up on love. It is because he has discovered something more profound, the terrifying, liberating joy of his own sufficiency. He is no longer a hungry mouth to be fed. He is the entire banquet. Recent studies, the kind whispered about in late-night neuropsychology forums in 2024, show us this in cold, clinical detail. They map the brain's response to predictive reward error. When a reward is expected but doesn't arrive, the dopamine pathways don't just go quiet. They flare up with a kind of frantic, searching static. It's a neurological craving for a resolution that isn't coming. When you are predictably available, you are a predictable reward. When you are unpredictably, silently, authentically absent, you become a source of that exquisite, maddening static in her mind. You become a riddle she has to solve, and she will try. She will probe the edges of your silence, testing its integrity. She'll send a casual message, a meme, a memory. She is knocking on the door of the void, listening for an echo. And if you answer too quickly, the gravity well collapses. The magic dies. You're just another hungry ghost. But if you let that silence breathe, if you answer in your own time, not as a reaction to her, but as an action originating from your own world, you deepen the mystery. You are not a planet in her orbit. You are a dark star, and she is feeling the first, gentle, irresistible pull of your tide. This is not manipulation. It is the consequence of becoming the center of your own universe. A fragile, fleeting hope begins to bloom in that darkness. The hope that you can be whole without anyone else's validation. It's a terrifying power. It can build worlds. It can break them. Now, a question for you, the one listening in the dark. Be honest. Not with me, but with that hollow space in your own chest. How many of your loves were not loves at all, but just a desperate, terrified flight from your own magnificent emptiness? Perfection is a sterile museum. Desire lives in the cracks of a masterpiece. Ah, the modern man, a masterpiece of self-deception. We are told to become statues of polished marble. Read these books, lift these weights, adopt this mindset, eat this diet, take this ice bath until your soul shivers. Optimize, calibrate, curate. We build our digital profiles like pristine tombs, gleaming mausoleums for personalities that died of boredom. We display our victories, our six-packs, our stoic quotes, our travel photos, where we look pensively into a sunset we didn't actually see because we were too busy getting the angle right. We present a flawless, unbreakable surface to the world, and we wonder why we feel so untouchable, so terribly, horribly alone in our perfection. We've been sold a grotesque lie. The lie is that a woman desires the finished product, the prize, the hero at the end of his journey. What a tedious fantasy. It's the kind of thing a boy who's never been loved imagines love to be. No, my friend, the hero is admirable, yes, but the man who is still fighting his dragons, the one with a limp, a scar over his eye, a story of magnificent failure in his voice, he is fascinating. Perfection doesn't invite connection, it invites worship. And worship from a distance is a cold, lonely business. True, raw, obsessive desire. It's a far messier, more intimate affair. It needs a flaw to cling to. It needs a wound to tend. It needs a crack in the armor to whisper its secrets into. There's an old, forgotten myth, not of the gods of Olympus, but of the smaller, muddier gods of the earth. There was a deity of sublime perfection. His face was perfect symmetry, his voice a perfect melody, his strength absolute. And the mortals, they were terrified of him. They couldn't look at him without feeling the crushing weight of their own inadequacy. They built him temples of cold, white stone and worshipped him from afar, out of fear, not love. Then came a war in the heavens, and he was cast down, wounded. He fell to earth with a broken wing and a jagged scar across his perfect face. He was, for the first time, grotesque, and for the first time, mortals approached him. They brought him water. They cleaned his wound. They saw in his brokenness a reflection of their own. His flaw made him approachable. His pain made him divine in a way his perfection never could. They didn't just worship him anymore, they loved him. This is the alchemy of the scar. We try so hard to hide our damage, to spackle over the cracks in our foundation. We talk about our strengths, never the beautiful, intricate tapestry of our weaknesses. We talk about what we've built, never the magnificent ruins of what we've lost. And in doing so, we present a lie. A boring, sterile, uninviting lie. Think of it this way. That man who posts his flawless life online, what is he really saying? He's saying, I am complete. I have no needs. I am a fortress. And a fortress, by its nature, is designed to keep people out. But the man who is not afraid to show his cracks, who can speak of a past failure with a wry, weary smile, who can admit to a moment of profound doubt, not as a cry for help, but as a statement of fact. He is not a fortress, he is a landscape. He has valleys of sorrow and peaks of resilience. He has deserts of loneliness and rivers of strange joy. He is a world to be explored, not a statue to be admired. This isn't an invitation to be a pathetic victim. Don't mistake this for weakness. Nietzsche wasn't just posturing when he said that what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. The strength isn't in avoiding the wound, it's in the scar. The scar is proof that you have healed. It is a testament to survival. It is a story written in flesh. Showing your scars is not weakness. It is the ultimate display of power. It says, the world tried to break me here, and it failed. This is the mark of my victory. Modern psychology is only just catching up to this ancient wisdom, dressing it in clumsy jargon like the pratfall effect. A 2025 paper, one of those obscure ones passed around by therapists who are tired of platitudes, spoke of narrative charisma. It found that leaders, artists, and lovers who generated the most profound, lasting bonds were not those who presented a story of unbroken success, but those who could frame their journey through the lens of a redemptive struggle. They didn't hide the dirt, they showed you how they learned to grow things in it. So you go on a date, you're wearing the perfect shirt. You've rehearsed your stories of success. You are a salesman and the product is you. How exhausting. How utterly transparent. She can feel the performance. She can smell the fear behind your carefully constructed perfection. Now imagine a different man. He isn't trying to impress. He laughs, and a hint of past sadness flickers in his eyes. She asks him about his work, and he tells her not just of his triumphs, but of a catastrophic failure that taught him everything. He tells it not with shame, but with the dark humor of a survivor. He is not performing. He is revealing. He is offering a glimpse into the beautiful, grotesque, utterly human cathedral of his soul. He is not handing her a resume. He is handing her a map of a dangerous and fascinating land, and the unspoken invitation is, dare to enter. That is the man who keeps her awake at night. Not the one she admires, the one she cannot figure out, the one whose pain hints at a depth she desperately wants to understand. She wants to trace the story of the scar. She wants to know the dragon that gave it to him. She becomes obsessed not with his perfection, but with the beautiful magnetic gravity of his imperfection. In that imperfection, she sees a fragile hope that her own imperfections might be welcome too, that she doesn't have to be a goddess to be loved by a god, but just a fellow survivor. And so here's my challenge to you, a dare, whispered from one cracked reflection to another. Look at yourself. I mean, really look. past the suit, past the gym membership, past the confident facade. Find the most interesting thing about you, the failure, the heartbreak, the wound you've spent your whole life hiding. Now imagine laying that down on the table on a first date, not as a wound, but as a work of art. Are you brave enough to be that interesting? You are not in love with her. You are in love with the reflection of your own famine. Desire in its purest form is a type of exquisite taxidermy. The artist, that's you, sees a living, breathing creature in the wild, so beautiful, so vibrant, but its vitality is also its problem. It is unpredictable, messy, free. It will not behave. So the artist decides he must have it. He doesn't want the creature itself, not really. He wants a perfect, still, eternal version of it. He hunts it, kills it, and then lovingly, painstakingly stuffs it with the straw of his own expectations. He replaces its wild, beating heart with a predictable core of his own making. He polishes its glass eyes until they reflect his own adoration. And then he mounts it on his wall. He is not in love with the animal. He is in love with his own artistry. He has conquered reality by replacing it with a monument to his own longing. This is what you call falling in love. A charming, if somewhat dishonest, turn of phrase. You meet her in a cafe, through a screen, in a crowded room. And in that first instant, a seed is planted. Not a seed of connection, but a seed of fiction. Your mind, that restless, desperate author, begins its work. It takes a glance and turns it into a promise. It takes a smile and writes a 3-act play. It takes a few carefully chosen words from her lips and builds a cathedral of character around them. The woman you spend your nights thinking about, the one whose name is a prayer on your lips. Forgive me for this cruelty, but she doesn't exist. She never has. The creature you are chasing is a ghost, a phantom you assembled in the lonely workshop of your own mind. You took a rib of her, a shared taste in music, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, a witty text message, and you built your perfect Eve from it. The rest of her, the vast, contradictory, inconvenient continent of her actual self, you have no interest in that. In fact, you are terrified of it. Her morning moods, her petty anxieties, her political opinions that clash with yours, her secret love for terrible pop music, her magnificent, infuriating, all-too-human flaws. This is the static that threatens your perfect broadcast. There's a miserable old fable about a sculptor, the greatest in his land. He decided to carve the perfect woman from a block of flawless marble. For years he toiled, pouring every ounce of his idealism, his fantasy, his desperate need for perfection into the stone. He named her Galatea. He whispered his secrets to her cold, stone ears. He adored her silence, her compliance, her unchanging beauty. He fell hopelessly in love with the statue. A passing goddess, amused by his devotion, brought the statue to life. Galatea blinked, stretched, and spoke. Her first words were, "It's dreadfully cold in here, isn't it?" Then she complained about the dust and asked the sculptor why he stared so intently. She had opinions. She had needs. She was real. The sculptor was filled with a revulsion so profound it choked him. This loud, complex living thing was a grotesque parody of his silent, perfect creation. In a fit of rage, he took his hammer and shattered her and spent the rest of his days trying to carve a new, better, more lifeless love from a new block of stone. Are you starting to see? The chase is not about winning her. It's about protecting the statue from the woman. As long as she is distant, she can remain perfect. She is a blank screen onto which you project the epic film of your own need. Kierkegaard would call this a sickness of the spirit, the despair of willing to be another, to find your meaning in a fantasy outside yourself. The modern philosopher might call it hyperreality. The simulation has become more real, more desirable than the messy original. Her Instagram profile is more attractive than she is because the profile is a story you can control. The real woman keeps trying to improvise. This is why the getting is so often a disappointment. The conquest is a funeral. The moment she truly lets you in, the real, flawed human woman walks into the room, and your beautiful ghost shrieks and evaporates. And you are left there with a person who will challenge you, disappoint you, and fail to live up to the impossible, divine standard of the fantasy you created. So what do? You mourn, you feel betrayed, you conclude that she changed, but she didn't change. She just arrived, and you couldn't bear it, so you begin to search again, scanning the horizon for a new, distant light, a new blank screen on which to project your tired, old film. The liberation, the strange and painful freedom Lao Tzu hinted at, comes when you stop being a sculptor. It comes when you have the courage to smash your own statue, to turn inward and face the terrifying truth. The hunger you feel is not for her. It is your own. The emptiness you are trying to fill with her is your own. The perfection you demand from her is the perfection you feel you lack. You are not chasing a woman. You are fleeing yourself. You have turned her into a mirror, and you have fallen in love with a beautifully distorted image of your own salvation. It's a profound, tragic, and deeply human act of self-deception. This is not a flaw in your character. It is the human condition, running on its default miserable software. The hope, as fragile as a moth's wing, lies in the willingness to see the machine for what it is. So, I ask you, and listen to the silence in the room after you answer. Who do you really want? The flesh and blood woman who exists outside your control with her chaotic symphony of imperfections, or the perfect, silent ghost you've built in the cathedral of your mind? Be careful. One of them offers the possibility of love. The other offers the certainty of obsession. The man who needs nothing has nothing to bargain with and is therefore priceless. I heard a joke the other day. A young man, earnest and bright-eyed, told me he was searching for a woman who would complete him. I almost felt sorry for him. Imagine a beggar with his empty bowl held out, searching for another beggar, hoping that if they combine their empty bowls, they will somehow manifest a feast. It's the foundational lie of romance. This idea that you are half of a whole, wandering the earth looking for your missing piece. It's a brilliant marketing campaign for the soul-crushing business of codependence. Let's call the modern world of love and desire what it really is, a marketplace. A frantic, noisy, desperate bazaar of need. Walk through it. Look around. Everyone is a merchant. Everyone is selling something. He is selling his status, his wallet, his future promises, his carefully rehearsed charm. He is selling her beauty, her youth, her attention, her nurturing smile. It is a flea market of souls. People polish their wares, a toned body, a witty bio, a photograph from a borrowed yacht, and they lay them out on their little blankets, hoping a buyer will be impressed enough to make a trade. The currency isn't money. It's validation. It's the temporary silencing of the terrible whisper that tells you you're not enough. If she, with her beauty, chooses me, then I am worthy. If he, with his success, chooses me, then I am valuable. It's a series of desperate, unspoken contracts. We trade our vulnerabilities for a fleeting sense of security. We perform like dancing bears for a handful of peanuts for the ego. And in this grotesque carnival of commerce, you are taught to be the best possible merchant. Have the best product. Have the slickest sales pitch. Learn the closing techniques. This is the entire thrust of modern dating advice, is it not? How to make your stall in the market more attractive than the next man's. But what if the secret isn't to be the best merchant? What if the secret is to not even be in the market? Think of the old Greek Diogenes the cynic, a man who slept in a clay barrel, owned nothing but a cloak and a cup, which he later threw away when he saw a boy drinking from his hands. He was, by all societal metrics, the ultimate failure, a beggar. One day, the most powerful man in the known world, Alexander the Great, came to see this famous madman. Alexander, surrounded by his generals, stood before Diogenes, who was sunning himself. The emperor, the conqueror of nations, the richest and most admired man alive, offered the beggar anything he could possibly desire. "Ask of me whatever you want," he said. Diogenes didn't even sit up. He squinted at the emperor and grumbled, "Stand aside, you're blocking my sun." In that moment, who was the king and who was the beggar? The man who had everything but still sought the validation of a madman? Or the man who had nothing and therefore needed nothing, not even from an emperor? Alexander's response is the key. He didn't have Diogenes executed for his insolence. He turned to his men and said, "Truly, if I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." This is the secret of the beggar king. When you enter the marketplace of desire with an empty bowl, with need radiating from you like heat, you are a beggar. You are at the mercy of those who might or might not give you alms. Your every move is a negotiation. Your every compliment is a bid. You are playing their game by their rules. But when you arrive with no bowl at all, when you have so thoroughly cultivated your own inner world, your own sun, that you genuinely require nothing from anyone else, you break the game itself. You are not there to buy her attention. You are not there to sell your worthiness. You are simply there. Like Diogenes, you are enjoying your own sun. This is not a pose. It is not an act. It is the hard-won peace that comes from a stoic understanding. Your happiness is your own damn business. It is a fortress built inside your own soul. When a woman who is so used to men approaching her with their empty bowls encounters a man who seems to have his own feast, it is utterly disorienting. He doesn't need her validation, so he doesn't flatter her in the way she expects. He doesn't need her company to feel complete, so his invitations are genuine, not desperate. He is not threatened by her independence because his own is absolute. Psychology has a clumsy term for the reaction this provokes: reactance. People crave what they feel they cannot have, but it's deeper than that. When you don't need her to choose you, her choice, for the first time, becomes truly free. And the prospect of a free being choosing you, not out of a trade or a need, but out of pure volition, that is the most intoxicating lure of all. She will see you across the crowded room of the market. Everyone else is haggling, shouting, pleading. You are simply watching, a faint, amused smile on your face. You are not a buyer or a seller. You are a philosopher king, observing a strange ritual, and she will wonder, what does he have that he needs nothing here? What is this sun he is so content to bask in? She, the prize that all the other merchants are fighting over, suddenly feels like the one with the empty bowl. You, the man with nothing to offer, have become the only thing worth having. This is the power that Lao Tzu spoke of, the power of the man who has conquered himself and therefore has no need to conquer others. It is a quiet, devastating strength. The fragile hope in this is the realization that you can be sovereign, that your well-being is not up for negotiation. So let me ask you this, a quiet question, just for you. No one else has to hear the answer. Take a ruthless inventory of your soul, right now. What are you selling on this grotesque market? Your wit, your money, your future? And more importantly, What are you so utterly desperate to buy that you would cheapen yourself to get it? To truly possess anything, you must first surrender the desire to own it. There is a story from a land long swallowed by the sea. It tells of a king who fell in love not with a woman, but with the wind. He was obsessed with its power, its freedom, its wild and untamable song. He commanded his engineers to build walls of immense height to trap it. The wind, in its fury, tore them down. He ordered his weavers to create nets of the finest, strongest silk to ensnare it. The wind laughed and slipped through the threads. He built a beautiful airtight cage of glass and gold, hoping to capture just a piece of it, a single breath of its soul. The wind simply refused to enter, leaving the air inside stagnant and dead. Defeated, ruined, and heartbroken, the king gave up. He demolished his own contraptions and sat alone in the rubble of his ambition, a king of nothing. He expected only silence. But then, with nothing left to resist, the wind came to him. It cooled his brow, whispered secrets in his ear, and danced with him in the ruins. The king finally understood. He could never own the wind. The moment he surrendered the madness of possession, he was free to experience its grace. This is the final truth. It is the one that lies past all the others. We have spoken of absence, of scars, of projections, of the marketplace of need. But these are all just battles in a much larger war, and the war is not against her or society or loneliness. The war is against the tyrant on the throne of your own mind, your ego. The ego is a hungry ghost. It is the voice that tells you you are incomplete. It is the famine that mistakes another person for food. It is the terrified, shivering child inside you that believes it needs to be loved by another to survive. Everything you do to chase a woman, the clever tactics, the performance of strength, the curation of your image, is an offering laid at the altar of this ghost. You are feeding it. And the more you feed it, the hungrier it becomes. When you create a void, as we discussed, her mind may become obsessed. When you show your scars, she may become fascinated. When you refuse to play the game of the market, she may see you as priceless. These things may happen, but if you are doing any of it in order to make them happen, you have already lost. You are still a slave to the outcome. You are still the king building a cage for the wind. You are still performing for the ghost on the throne. The final, terrifying, and most liberating step is to kill the king. It is the act of willingly abdicating the throne of your own ego. It is to arrive at a place of such profound inner stillness that you no longer need her to be obsessed. You no longer need her fascination. You no longer need her at all. Not out of spite, not as a tactic, but as a simple, profound, existential fact. This is the state Lao Tzu called Wu Wei. Not inaction, but effortless action. Action that flows from your authentic nature, not from a need for a specific result. You are kind not because it will make her like you, but because you are a kind man. You are ambitious not to impress her, but because you have a fire in your own soul. You live a fascinating life not as bait, but because you are genuinely fascinated by life itself. Your existence ceases to be a performance, it becomes a prayer. This is a kind of death. It is the last supper of the ego. You must invite that hungry part of you to the table, look it in the eye, and then refuse to serve it a single scrap more. You must be willing to let go of the very you that is defined by its relationships. The you that is a good boyfriend, a charming lover, a successful man. You must burn these labels on the pyre and walk into the wilderness of your own being, nameless and free. What remains? Emptiness, but not the yearning, painful emptiness of lack. It is the serene, powerful emptiness of the sky, which allows clouds and storms and sun to pass through it without being changed by them. Other people, love, desire, heartbreak, they can all pass through you. You experience them fully, perhaps more fully than ever before, but they do not define you. You do not cling. You do not grasp. You are the space in which the drama happens, not an actor desperate for a role. From this state, a new kind of love becomes possible. It is not the grasping, needy thing we mistake for love. It is an overflowing. It is a radiation. You love not to get, but because you are. You are a sun, and shining is your nature. Whether planets choose to orbit you or not is incidental. This is the ultimate paradox. When you truly, genuinely, existentially do not need a woman's desire to feel whole, you become the most magnetic thing in the universe. Not because you are playing a game, but because you have become the game itself. The source. The wind that no one can capture, and that everyone wants to feel. It's the quietest power in the world. The hope here isn't that you'll win her. The hope is that you'll no longer care if you do, because you've already won yourself. And so we arrive at the final door. Behind it is not another strategy, not another secret. Behind it is a mirror showing a throne, empty and waiting. This is the last and most important question. Are you willing to let go of it all? Not just your need for her, but the very you that needs her. Can you walk away from the throne and let the ghost starve so that you, the real you, can finally